So hi everyone, my name's Darren. I'm just going to give it a minute just so a few people that are running late can join, and then we'll start. So yeah, it's nearly a couple of minutes past now, so we'll start. So my name's Darren. I'm going to speak to you all today about some tips for managing your workload at the moment. Um, There is a questions pane on the right hand side. Basically, what I'm going to do is I've pre-recorded the presentation, so I'm going to play it to you in a minute. But if anyone has any ideas or suggestions, feel free to share them as we're going, and then I will read them all out at the end. So here we go, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Darren, and I'm a service manager from Care First. It's important to say that I'm not a counsellor, I'm just a service manager for Care First. Um, so I'm going to speak to you today about tips for managing your workload. So it's important to say, first of all, there is no magic wand to make work disappear. I can't give you any magical tips just to, like I say, make it all invisible and go away. But a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is just simple steps that you can make to make your workload a bit more manageable. Some of the tips as well that I will speak about will be stuff that will just make you feel a bit better about it. And I think that will be really, really good today is that we can share ideas between us. So I'd like all of you to get involved as well. There is a questions pane. I believe it's on the right-hand side of your screen. But I don't want you to just ask questions. Of course you can, but please give any ideas or tips. So it might be experiences that you've had so far, or stuff that you've done that's made your life a bit easier in terms of managing your workload. And then what I will do is I'll read them out to everyone. Again, that will just give us some more ideas to help each other. They will be confidential. I won't read out names. But yeah, so the idea is to work smarter, not harder. So moving on to the next slide. So first thing is to have a plan of how you're going to attack your workload. So one of the things that I think is a good idea to do, especially if you've got a lot of work or a lot of things going on at the moment, and this can be, I know when I've spoke to some of the organisations that I directly have links with, that staff have been furloughed, so therefore people have got more work because of that. People are in self-isolation, so again, people are picking up extra work. So one of the things that I find helps me is to write a list of all the tasks and then basically go through them and prioritize. So I will normally, for example, with that list, might sound a bit daft, but I will highlight the most important task, all the things that I need to get done first in red. And then everything else, I'll just, I might do orange for, like, for example, the stuff that needs to be done next in line, and so on. And then that can help me to prioritize what I need to do. A good example of this for me is when I'm from a retail background. So when I was a store manager, I took over a store, and basically 2 weeks into doing my training, the company that I just started working for had gone into administration. So training was cancelled. I had to go back to my store, and basically a store in the next sort of town or city, town, sorry, was being closed down. So we had to go and remove all the stuff from there and literally just chuck all the stock in my shop. And then I was just told to get on with it, basically, because of obviously everything that was happening at that time. So the first thing I'd done was, after spending about 20 minutes of my mind thinking, where do I start, is I just wrote everything down. And that really helped me to, in my mind, get some sort of clear focus, because obviously there was so much to do, and I couldn't do that all in one day, although I'd love to. And then I just prioritised, for example, obviously stock being on the shop floor was a bit of a health and safety issue, so getting that all out the back. Although, for example, on my first day we got that all out the back, it was out the back really messily, just basically chucked in the stock room. But tidying and organising the stock room was on my list, but that was obviously a lot further down because there was other stuff that was more of a priority. So that's just an example of something that I did in my past. Something that I love a lot is using your diary, and not just using your diary to write things down, using your diary effectively to help you. So again, once you've got your list of stuff in order, then you can plan it into your working week. So if you are Monday to Friday example, I know a lot of you won't be. Some of you will be part-time, you might work weekend, whatever it will be. But use your diary to planning tasks for that day. Now, where you've got to be really careful with this is not to, shall we say, overfill your diary. So make sure you allow yourself enough time to do the tasks. You've got to be really realistic with that. Also, what you've got to be good at here is planning in a bit of time for, shall we say, unexpected tasks. So we all, appreciate what it's like when you get a phone call and someone's asking you to do something else, or, for them things that are unexpected. So don't just fill your whole day up with stuff, because there is always likely to be that thing that comes in unexpectedly. And also, if, for example, with that day you manage to get anything done because you don't get anything come in, any tasks or anything, you can move on to the following day, and so on. So that's just a good way of doing it, because what you don't want to do is all of a sudden you've given yourself too much to do in a day that you're not getting it done and you're not getting nowhere with it because of extra stuff coming on in, either on the phone or email or whatever it may be. I think what's a good thing to do as well, and again, I'm a really good believer in doing this because it makes me feel good when I go back and look at what I've actually done, is to tick off them tasks in your diary, what you've done. And then what you can do is, if on Wednesday, I've still got this to do, but when you look back on, say, Tuesday and Monday, you think, wow, I've actually done quite a lot. I've got quite a lot of my list done, or whatever it may be, but it just makes you feel good about the work that you've already done and that you are being productive and getting a lot of stuff done. So that's a good thing to do. And again, with planning, is there a way of making life easier for yourself? So, for example, I've been with CareFirst for about 2 months now. So a lot of what I've been doing is trying to organise stuff to make my life easier. So it could be, for example, if I'm sending out a weekly comms to everyone, what is the quickest way to do that? Is it using some sort of program that will send it to everyone? Well, I like to make my emails a bit more personal. So is it copy and pasting and changing a bit? Is it writing the email from scratch? What can make that task as easy as possible and as quick as possible? So yeah, that's really important. Again, if you've got, I don't know, stuff to do within your organisation with colleagues, what's the quickest way of doing that? Because if it's between you guys, say, in the office, has that got to be perfect? Is there some way that you can send emails to each other quickly? I know we're talking about emails, and that's not going to be obviously applicable for everyone, but whatever job you do, is there a way of doing something quicker, but still as effectively? There's no good doing it quicker if it's not going to be as good quality. So moving on. So this is really important, to set your own deadlines. We all work well under pressure. So although we don't necessarily like too much on top of us because we can feel overwhelmed, but it's still important to have that pressure to get stuff done. Otherwise, I don't know about you guys, but it reminds me of when, for example, I'd be in college or school. You could have a deadline 6 months away to get something done, but unless I set myself deadlines to get it done sooner, I would leave it go until the night before, because there's no pressure to do it until then. So it's important to set yourself deadlines and don't leave it till the last minute. Set yourself deadlines before, because what tends to happen is if you leave it the night before the deadline or the day before the deadline, there might be a question that comes up that you don't know the answer to, or something unexpected that you haven't realised. So it's important to give yourself that time, because if an unexpected question does come up, if you set your deadline before the actual deadline, you've then got time to reassess that workload or speak to someone about that. Is the deadline achievable? This is really, really important, to make sure that you're setting yourself deadlines that you can hit. What you don't want to do is set yourself deadlines that you just know are going to be really difficult to hit. You're not going to be able to do. You'll worry and stress over them. And again, if you set yourself achievable deadlines and be realistic about stuff, if you know that that deadline is then unrealistic from, say, your boss or someone else within the organisation, at least you can go back to them in plenty of time and say, look, I've made a plan, I've got my diary, this is what I've got going on. I'm not going to be able to hit that. I just don't think it's realistic. Is there any suggestions? Can we push that deadline back? Is it important to have it there? You know, is there any of these other deadlines that I've got going on before that we can move around? So just by having a plan in place, deadlines, etc., when then you're going to speak to your boss or someone else in the organisation, you can show them, look, this is what I've got. You can plan stuff about, and it makes them look at you and they think, yeah, this person's got a lot going on. I can see what they're doing to tackle these challenges, and we can move stuff about to help them possibly. So yeah, they're just stuff that I found really useful. Now, again, utilising each member of your team's skill set. So what I mean by this, I appreciate there's loads of different organisations out there, but I'm just going to use some of my own examples that I found at the minute. So it could be, for example, that someone in CatFast, for example, one of the other service managers, really struggles with webinars. They're not very good with technology. They can spend a whole day trying to get it up and running, and that simply isn't very productive. So it could be that, for example, I may be good at webinars, so I could take their webinars off for them, and I could do their webinars on their behalf, get them to pre-record them, and they send them over to me and do them, something along them lines. And it could be that although that's increasing my workload, that they're really good at reports. So then I could pass off some of my reports to them to do because they're really good at them, like doing them. So it's just helping each other, because if I struggle to do reports, I might spend all day looking at one, spending ages on it, and they might get that report done really quickly. So just by me doing their webinar and them doing their report, that's going to save so much time that could be used on other stuff. What is important here, though, is that although using people's key strengths to help increase productivity, what you don't want to do is give them all the same sort of work, so then it becomes boring and mundane, that they're going to get really demotivated. If I've got a whole day of doing webinars all day, that's lacking variety then. So it's just being a little bit careful, and hopefully any leaders, management amongst us listening, or all of you thinking of stuff like that, who can we give this work to because they're strong at it, etc. So moving on, if you're struggling with workload, anything, ask for help. Remember, the sooner you can do this, the better. I'm sure there's nothing worse as, say, a manager or someone coming to you on, say, the night before a deadline saying, I'm really struggling with this, I've got too much on. The sooner you can ask for help, the better, really. And sometimes it could be that if a manager or leader or someone's asked you to do something and you're struggling with it, but someone on your team is happy to do it, they've not got so much on, or they're going to be better at it, you could swap tasks or whatever it could be. If you've got a plan in place and you go and say, look, I'm struggling with this bit of work, but I've arranged for Joe Blogs to do it because they like doing it, and I'm going to do this bit of work for them because I'm quicker at that, they're more likely to be maybe accepting of it because you've tried to do it, you've tried to sort it, but you've sorted out a solution for that piece of work. So, there's other ways to do stuff as well. Think about who is the best person to ask for help. So, for example, when I was a retail manager and I was in that difficult situation that I was telling you about earlier on, I rang an experienced store manager who I knew would be able to help me. If I rang someone that maybe wasn't so experienced, hadn't been with the company for so long, would they be able to help me so long? Would they then have to go and ring someone to get help? So it's just ring in, make sure you ask the best person possible for some help. Yeah, so this is interesting. Work does not always have to be perfect. So we'll be a bit careful how to explain this. If I'm sending a report out to a client, obviously, yes, it does have to be perfect. It has to be really to a really high standard. But if I'm just sending an email to colleagues at work, does that have to be perfect? It's just between people in the office. Suspending extra time, I don't have to do that because it's between us. So it's not as key, I guess, not as important. So just being aware that when you're doing more admin-based tasks that isn't going out to clients or customers, don't spend tons of times on it, looking at it, making sure it's perfect. I wasn't sure where to put this one in terms of on the presentation, that if you're struggling with a task, try not to get too wrapped up in it. So what I mean by this, for example, if a good example for me being fairly new to Care First, when I first started, I had an email about a particular subject and I was reading it and I just could not get my head around it, no matter how much I read it. Then I had a call about it and it still wasn't going in. So I left it. I left it for a few hours and come back to it later that day. And when I read it again, it was the simplest thing. I just hadn't quite read it right and it wasn't going in my mind right. And when I read it again, it really made sense. So sometimes if we are struggling with something and we're sat there at screen reading over and over again and it really won't go in, it won't make sense. It's something that we could definitely do is maybe think about having an hour off and coming back and reading it again. So that's a good thing. Yeah, so that's all I want to say on that. That covers that. And this is just general about Care First. So it's just obviously if you are struggling with anything, if you just want to talk to someone that will listen, you can call us. Don't sit there struggling. Don't let it build up. Phone Care First and just say that I've got a lot going on at the minute, and maybe just speaking to someone and them listening for it, even a few minutes in the moment, may really really help you and just make you feel like you've got that off your chest. At least speaking to someone about it. Also, don't forget there's loads of online resources on the Care First Lifestyle website there, so that's a good one to go on and have a look at. Your HR teams will be able to give you your login details for that. And lastly from me, thanks for listening today. If anyone has got any questions or any other ideas that they're willing to share with the group today, that would be amazing. If you just type them in now, and what I'll do is I'll read some of them out, and it'd be really good to get your thoughts and ideas as well around managing workload. Thank you, everyone. Yes, I hope you all found that interesting. It would be good to get some of your thoughts and ideas. Is there anything that you've done at work that has really helped to manage workload, or anything that you've done differently to make your job easier in terms of managing workload? If anyone has any ideas, if you want to share them, I'll hold on for a few minutes and read any out. So I just had one idea come through, which is a really good one and one that I didn't put in there. But basically, it's a tip just saying take regular breaks and work in an environment that is good for you. So yeah, that's a really good point. And I mean, I tend to find in my day at the minute, for example, once I finish doing this webinar, I will probably go down, make a drink, and as I'm waiting for the kettle to boil, I'll spend a few minutes out in the garden just taking in some fresh air, and that just helps to freshen up my mind, for example. At the minute on lunchtime, I do my one exercise a day, just taking the dog for a quick walk. Again, just getting out, just trying to break the day up so I'm not looking at a screen all day. So certainly a good suggestion there. So another one just come in. Another tip on just how to manage your workload. So someone's put that we use Trello boards at work to help plan our workload. So just another way of using boards to help each other. Another really good idea. Another one again, don't be afraid to delegate. Yeah, that's obviously a really good one as well, because a lot of people sometimes feel like, for example, if some of their teammates, they think that their teammates have got a load of work on and they're really busy, some people will be scared to then speak to them about it because they know how busy they are. Um, so I guess it's just managing that situation. So within your organization, if you know someone's really busy, is there someone else that you could ask? Is there someone better to ask? Can it wait? Does it need to be urgent? So it's just taking into consideration all of them different things, but certainly don't ignore it. So someone's just put, currently feeling overwhelmed with workload. Make suggestions to a line manager to ease this, but automatically dismissed. Stick with it. Any suggestions? So it's a bit of a tricky one. What sometimes can happen, I'm sure we all have moments like this as well. And I know from being a retail manager in the past, sometimes, for example, if that manager's boss or that manager's got a lot of stuff going on, sometimes they can get very, shall we say, stressed as well. And they might be having one of them days where they've got loads of stuff going on. So it could be that when you ask them, maybe they were having a bad day. And although obviously they shouldn't dismiss it, it could be that it was something like that, or they had something, I don't want to say more important, but it could have been that there was a big issue or something going on that they just dismissed it then. So I would certainly ask again and maybe see if you can do it in a maybe a different way. So I don't know if, for example, you'd phone them. Can you maybe email them and have a list of all the stuff that you're having to do this week and say, look, I've got a lot on. Is there any way we can move any of this? Is there anyone else that can help? It could be, if you've not had any luck with them, are there any other members of your organisation or in your team? Could you ask them for any help, maybe? So yeah, just some things to ask. Another one coming in. So we record each task on a postcard. Then each day the postcards can be reviewed and prioritised. This ex. So I'm reading it. It's a really small pane. This externalizes what is held in a list or in the mind and saves lists being rewritten. So yeah, that's just a obviously another good way of doing it. So using postcards. I used to do that with, like, say, for example, if I had a presentation like this to you, I'd use little note cards instead. So they were short things that I can remember. But whatever works for you, these are just some of my ideas, stuff that I find works for me. But if postcards works, that's a really good way of doing it. Like you say, you could have all the little postcards or note cards up on a board, and you could just take them down when you've done them. So yeah, really good idea. I'm sure people will find that really useful. When working from home, keep in touch with your colleagues so you don't feel isolated. So yeah, that's a definite real good thing to do. I know, for example, a lot of organisations are doing this, but we have a daily meeting first thing in the morning to have a general catch up and see how everyone is. There's also a thing as well. You've got to be a bit careful because although you want to have the daily interaction with everyone and keep everyone part of the team, it's not overdoing it. So, for example, a lot of people at the minute will find that they've got back-to-back meetings on, say, Zoom or Skype. So they'll have one video call in the morning, then another, and that can be quite tiring. So it's making sure that you're doing it in a way that works for everyone. So it could be that you have a WhatsApp group where you're all messaging each other as well. Whatever works. It could be that maybe once a fortnight you do a quiz night with everyone. But yeah, just that's a really good point. Someone's put, I find it quite tricky to delegate. I manage a team of people. We have a daily meeting to share what we are all working on that day. So yeah, we do a similar thing. I mean, I think what's interesting as well is that we keep developing. So, for example, we have our daily meeting, and what, for example, my bosses were doing is then they were doing a daily meeting with us, seeing how everyone was, chatting about stuff that's going on. And then they would ring each of us individually and go through what was happening. I think that was taking a lot of time to do. So what we now do is we've actually developed that. So in the morning when we have our group conversation, everyone will go through and they'll have their sort of 2, 3 minutes, whatever it may be, just to explain what they did yesterday and what they're going to do today. If there's any help they need, anything along that, just so everyone's got their sort of few minutes to say what's going on. And then we just have maybe a couple of times a week we'll do I'll do a catch up with my line manager, for example. So it's yeah, there's lots of different ways to do it. So I'm really pleased that everyone's got involved and sent some ideas. That's the last one at the minute. If there's any more that anyone has, please feel free to send some through. So I think that's it, guys. Nothing else has come through. Again, a good thing is that if anyone else in your organisation, when you're chatting, are struggling with workload, just this is going to be recorded as well. So give them the calendar that we send out to everyone with the link on, and they can always go back and watch this as well. There's lots of ideas on there. You guys have also shared lots of your really good ideas as well. So I hope that everyone's got something from today, even if it's one idea that you haven't thought of. So that's brilliant. And enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and everyone keep well and safe. Take care. All the best. Bye.